All right. Well, the Proteas women played a magical game of cricket yesterday to qualify for the final of the T20 Women's World Cup in Dubai. And they did so by beating overwhelming favourites Australia by 8 wickets and with 16 balls to spare. To look at their chances, let's now welcome SABC News sports researcher Janet Whitton. Janet, always great having you with us. Good afternoon to you. So let's start by looking back and bragging. That was quite a thorough win, right, as you'll ever see. And of course, talk to us about the possibility about Australia probably still wondering what happened to them, and what do you think was the secret for the Proteas this time? Sorry to mismatch my words.
No, not a problem. Hi. Yes, absolutely. South Africa planned for that match so well, and I think that was the key to their win. They worked out Australia, and they worked out the conditions that they were going to face in Dubai. Traditionally, Australia are very good chasers, so they decided that they were going to put Australia into bat almost regardless of what the conditions were, partly because in Dubai so far in this tournament, it's been very difficult to gauge exactly what a good target actually is. So they decided to put that on Australia. And it really worked for them. And Australia were probably sort of 10 to 20 runs short at the end of their innings. The South Africans knew that. They started a little bit slow in those first 2 overs between Laura Wolfart and Tasman Brits, but then they really got going. And once Tasman Brits was out, and she's been superb in this tournament so far, but she only made 15 yesterday, Annika Bosch came in, and Annika Bosch has probably underperformed a little bit in this tournament, but she was absolutely brilliant. She scored an unbeaten 78 or 48 balls, and that just took it away from Australia. They had absolutely no answers, and it's very unusual for Australia not to have answers with either bat or ball or in the fielding for that matter. So it really was a classy all-round performance from the Proteas women.
Of course, and keeping them in that position of not knowing what's coming up next. Janet, do you think, of course, the Proteas will play just the same way in the final, be it against New Zealand or the Windies?
I think it might be slightly different. They're probably putting plans aside at the moment, depending on who they actually play. The West Indies, they've beaten already in this tournament so far, but the West Indies have been getting better and better throughout the series. So I think they're going to be very difficult if they are the team that we do end up by playing in the final. The West Indies women are a little bit like the West Indies men's team. If you get them on a bad day, they're awful, but if you get them on a good day, they're very difficult to beat. And in the last 2 games that they've played, they've been very difficult to beat. So they could be very dangerous. New Zealand haven't really been in this position before. They haven't made the last 4 in since 2016. So this is a position they probably weren't counting on being in. So they might be a little bit overwhelmed. But if you had to choose which one to play, I think probably New Zealand are the less dangerous side potentially. But either way, either of these 2 teams are beatable by South Africa, and if they play anything like they did yesterday, they definitely have a really good chance of winning.
Absolutely. Just on that point, Janet, I mean, what is at stake here? Can the Proteas women do better than last time and actually clinch this victory for us?
Last time they reached the final and they played against Australia, and it was an Australia that was on form, and I think they were quite intimidated by playing against Australia. They hadn't beaten them before, but in the year since then, South Africa have beat Australia once in a T20 at the beginning of this year. They beat them in an ODI after that, and now, of course, they've beaten them in a World Cup match for the first time. So I think there's a growing sense of confidence in this team. I think they really do have the capability. And the team members talk a lot about the words of advice they get from Paul, the spin bowler, who is the consultant for the team. And he's been very good at motivating them and getting them to go the right way and to think the right way and to really believe that they can do it. And I think they really do believe that now. So yes, I think they can do it.
And speaking of confidence, Janet, I mean, what do you think sets this team apart? Because they don't seem to suffer from the same fragile mindset as the Proteas men. Oops. What do you think is their winning formula?
I think that they have the advantage in that until a year ago, probably until that last World Cup final that they qualified for, there weren't a lot of expectations on them, whereas the Proteas men have so much expectation on them. Sort of until recently, possibly not at the moment, because I think that there's an acknowledgement that this is probably not the strongest Proteas team that we have at the moment. But I think that expectation is such a weight on the men's shoulders, whereas the women are just so happy about being where they are, and they've come together as a team. And the coaching staff that they've got together, they were very good under Hilton Moureng as well, but the coaching staff that's taken over under Dylan du Preez since Moureng's departure has spent a lot of time working on their mindset, and then obviously individually on the batting. Even the experienced, really good batters, people like Marizanne Kapp, Laura Wolfhard herself, talk about how their batting has improved with the new infusion of coaching that they have. So I think there's confidence in that team, which perhaps the Proteas men with the history that they have don't have.
Put women anywhere and they will definitely show out and show up and thrive. Thank you, Janet, for that great conversation. As always, Janet Whitton, the SABC sports researcher, on, of course, the Proteas women and in their battle to bring us some good news out at that tournament.